members of March and March, as well as Operation Dudula, blocking undocumented foreign nationals from accessing medical care, really saying that the reason why they are doing this is because they feel as if the resources which are supposed to be benefiting those who are in fact South Africans are being wasted on undocumented foreign nationals, and that it has gotten to a point where there have been South Africans who have gotten to, a situation where they do not receive adequate treatment, or they get to be inconvenienced whenever they attend to these medical facilities. I'm going to bring into the conversation Iman Raymond, who speaks on also behalf of the people who are refugees. I know that you care very much for them. That's part of the work that your organization does. But you are here to show support to the South African Human Rights Commission. Care to share why?
Yes, the Dennis Hurley Centre here in Durban works with homeless people and refugees, and we provide healthcare to them. And over the last 6...
So this is the NGO. Why are the NGO providing health care to refugees using public funded resource equity based public hospital in South Africa that's designed for citizens? So how can you say you're providing healthcare for refugees, but you don't have a clinic, you don't have a pharmacy, you don't have any basic resources to provide care, but you're providing for them, but you're sending them to a public hospital or public healthcare that is crowded, that is based on equity? This is where the problem is with this thing with the NGO in South Africa. So they're bringing, like I said, they're bringing all these refugees to access equity-based healthcare that even citizens cannot access because it's crowded. They're forced to take a private healthcare. The citizens themselves, some of them can't even afford that, but they're forced to do that because we know that public healthcare in South Africa is limited. It's not even enough for citizens. How can you say you are a non-profit organization? You're providing healthcare for refugees and asylum seeker, but you're using the public resources. I don't understand this conversation. Please help me, please. I don't understand it.
So how do we differentiate, though, in a case like this, between what some would say is xenophobic attacks against undocumented or non-nationals, and the legitimate concerns about resources? Because that, of course, comes into play in this conversation.
We need to understand this. We need to understand when we come to the issue about undocumented people. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Undocumented people, and also the fact that we sit with a situation that we sit with a situation that we have no borders. We don't have camps like any other African country.
Yeah.
You understand? We don't have camps in this country because the government of the day, including myself, when we became part of wanting to build a new South Africa. But the fact of the matter is, if the border management do not control our borders, then we sit with the problem that it's a free-for-all. Yeah. The second thing, the South African Police Services also have to do their work. Home Affairs also have to do their work in terms of rounding up or whatever they have to do. But the South African Human Rights Commission cannot be the last recipient of problems that we cause.
Yeah.
And so we have to defend, in terms of the constitution of this country and in terms of our act, that is where we are today.
So the resources, we know that resources in healthcare are very limited. Even in Australia here, they're limited. They're not for everyone who just come in by boat or legal migrants. It takes a long time before you can qualify your way to access to Medicare in Australia because healthcare is expensive. Now, how is he going to convince a judge that illegal immigrants, people who should not be in South Africa, should be allowed access to public, equity-based, crowded healthcare facilities in South Africa?
Hi everyone. Hi everybody. So this is our attorney, March and March. And then we also had senior counsel who advocates Dudula SC and advocate Kubuni, and of course Zuma and partners. Thank you so much, guys. The A-team. Today we won. Saturday, March and March until we win. We won our case. LAI Human Rights Commission was trying to get us interdicted and arrested by the police. And then the judge said, no, it's not urgent. It's not. And so it's over 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, it doesn't matter. But it means that we are now going to intensify our fight to keep our resources for South Africans.
Yes, that is Jacinta Zuma, founder of March on March. She's speaking that, yeah, they're going to intensify since the judge at Durban High Court dismissed the case with cost. That was brought forward by the South African Human Rights Commission and the NGOs, that NGO the clip played earlier. So they're going to intensify their efforts to protect their resources. That's what she said. So the NHI isn't active currently in South Africa, and even if it were, it would still exclude illegal immigrants in South Africa. Illegal immigrants have no benefits. To suggest otherwise, it's false and wrong. To suggest that there's no benefits for illegal immigrants. So yeah, so that's how the things are, and yeah. So I'm gonna play another clip, the last clip of the NGO person who was interviewed earlier. Because there's something I want you guys to think about, and I think you would kind of like understand the broader picture what's going on here. So as an analyst, I go beyond the headlines. So there are a lot of stuff, nuances in this case. So let's revisit that interview again, the last clip that I'm going to play right now about the NGO who was talking about they look after refugees and asylum in South Africa.
To intervene. And that's why the case this morning isn't just against the protesters, it's against the police and against the Department of Health, because they have failed to uphold their duty to protect the Constitution.
And what is it that you're expecting for the police as well as the health department to do, actually? Because not so long ago, there was a matter here at the High Court, and this matter was, against the health minister as well as the acting police minister. But then it was struck off the roll because it was actually said that, in fact, they are not the ones who are responsible for this type of activity. What are your expectations from them, taking this into consideration?
The police are clearly responsible for preventing illegal activity. It is illegal for a member of the public to demand to see somebody's ID. It is illegal for somebody to block access to a hospital. It is illegal for staff in the hospital to refuse to serve people because they choose not to. Yet the Department of Health allows that to happen. The police allow that to happen. They are not carrying out their legal duty, the duty of which they've all taken an oath to uphold the Constitution. They're not carrying out that duty. And today it's foreign nationals who are being prevented from accessing their constitutional rights. Who knows who it'll be tomorrow? Imagine if you or I set up a protest outside the hospital and we decided that today only white people can go into the hospital or only black people can go into the hospital. The police would soon intervene.
So it's worth noting that none of these NGOs apply the same moral pressure to Western countries that deny asylum or refugee or even deport migrants in masses, okay? Yet South Africa, one of the few developing countries, still allow walk-in hospital access regardless of nationalities, get portrayed as violating rights. This creates a moral inversion. So a country like South Africa, already struggling under resources constraints, it's expected to do more than far wealthier nations and get shamed for not doing enough. If I had to look at this NGO's book, you'll find that all of it is funded by Western countries. They're not funded by South African donors. They were funded international. If I were to go and have a look who's the funder of this NGO, and I'm going to have a look at it as well. And I'll give you guys some report what I found. So since South Africa, what I noticed also, like with this stuff, and I noticed even during the illegal miners, who all of them were illegal immigrants that got into a mine illegally, of course, under these syndicates. So since South Africa took Israel to ICJ, there's been a really coordinated pattern of NGOs suddenly funding faults, domestic faults. Issues are in South Africa, from illegal mining to hospital access. Knowing exactly that even those hospital access is limited, knowing that the public resources are limited in South Africa, all right? Like he said, the reporter said, there's very same cases. A few months ago, they had the same case against Dudula. And in that case, they had Minister of Health. It was dismissed with cost, that case, with there was the same procedural flaws around agency and the target. Why the Minister of Health? Why the Minister of Police? They're not responsible for a political party like Operation Dudula and a civil society March on March. So we've seen on these Western funded NGOs suddenly funding, some faults domestically with domestic issues. And the same organizations that said justice for Gaza now blame the South African government for not giving free healthcare to illegal immigrants. But let's be very clear here. Public healthcare is already collapsing. South Africa doesn't have universal coverage, and NHR isn't in force. These aren't human rights failures. They are sovereignty and resource questions. This issue of healthcare in South Africa, they're not human rights failure. They are sovereignty and resource questions. South Africa has been punished for taking a moral stand globally, while the NGO who cheered the ICJ case now undermine the same government at home. That is not solidarity, it's strategic pressure. We've seen them do this stuff. All right? It's seen them, this whole thing. So I think this whole thing about these human rights and the NGO, you need to evaluate the role they play now. It's quite different role they're playing right now. And the very fact that they're bringing these people in under these resources strain suggests that they either contributing to something sinister, a covert operation. So I've read this stuff about these NGOs, how they do COVID operations with the money they get funded for. And if you look at the books, you might say donating for good cause, and you realize, but they would be funding for these, groups and giving them money to do protests and give them funding. We've seen these protests being funded by NGOs elsewhere in the world. So you need to pay attention to these South African human rights and these NGOs. That's all I'm saying. There's a little bit more that they're playing right now. The role that they play, it's a very covert and sinister, very covert role and sinister. It's not so much about human rights here. They're not playing a human rights, because here we're talking about resources. Any reasonable person will understand this. You cannot bring people in a crowded facilities and expect them to be provided a safe health care, because it's already crowded. Crowded health facilities, it's an unsafe working condition for staff and for patients. So that is important thing. And first, instead of actually even working around the issue around these identity issues, that actually is a big problem for me around trafficking of medicines, allegation of trafficking for medicines. They're not even addressing that. So they're really playing a very covert, sinister, problematic, concerning role than just an NGO being concerned about well-being of illegal immigrants.